You're on mute.
All right, so let's get started. Sorry about the whole muting thing. So at least I started recording, right? I want to welcome everybody to the Sociology, Criminology, and Criminal Justice presentation series. Today we have a guest speaker from the Historic Preservation Training Center that is part of the National Park Service. And he is going to tell us a little bit about himself, his background, and his education. He's actually a Shepherd alumni, which is exciting for us. And then he's going to take any questions that you have. So stay tuned for that. So I'm going to hand it over to Superintendent Moss Rudley.
Rob, thank you very much. And everyone out there on this call today, welcome. And I'm happy to be here as both an alumni of Shepherd College, now Shepherd University. I graduated in 1999 with a degree in business administration and a minor in engineering. So today I'm happy to be here. I was born and raised in West Virginia, Lewisburg, West Virginia. Came to Shepherd College in 1993. So I was a long-term student. We all get there, stay after it. And so from there, after I graduated in 1999, I had a love of history. I'd always been fascinated with working with my hands. I grew up in a very culturally rich part of West Virginia and had the opportunity to see the world. And so my time at Shepherd certainly prepared me for my life within the National Park Service and the career I have. But also the organization that I work for and the training that we provide for the National Park Service has certainly created connections through personal connections with individuals that have transcended a lot of the organizational structure that makes up the National Park Service. So I'm going to take some time today to explain to you what the Historic Preservation Training Center does, the programs we run, and then also talk a little bit about how these training programs have influenced the way the National Park Service employees and the system itself works a little bit. So next slide, please. So as it's a little slow on my side, I do have slow internet connection here today. However, I was, as I said, I went to Shepherd College. There's me in early 2005. I went to Shepherd. I had dreadlocks that were all the way down to way down my back. I had those for well over 14 years. I was probably not what you would consider a totally traditional student, but it was a wonderful experience coming to Shepherd. It gave me an opportunity to see life, see the arts, and really influenced how I became the superintendent of HPTC. As you will see me there in my picture only a few months ago, I put on a few pieces of facial hair and grown up there. But again, Shepherd College, Shepherd University certainly was a great part of my life. I still live in the Eastern Panhandle region of West Virginia and have wonderful things in my interactions with Shepherd over the years. So next slide, please. So the Historic Preservation Training Center has been in existence for a little over 44 years. In 1977, we were founded because of a hurricane that impacted the national park system in the national capital area. And the C&O Canal had a great need and could not find skilled tradesmen to perform work on historic structures. And our founder at that time decided to create a new program, which turned into a new organization around the dedicated preservation and maintenance of national parks and teaching people to do this work and fostering stewardship and care and also promoting the use of hands and trade. So we take historic preservation projects, construction projects and maintenance projects and use those as our field classroom. We train people in project management, in masonry, carpentry, architecture, you name it, but it's all done through experiential learning opportunities mixed with some formal learning opportunities, and is certainly curriculum and competency based. So it's a wonderful organization. We're well over 100 employees now. And with the Great America Outdoors Act, which many of you may have seen was passed last year, it opens up a whole new opportunity to expand this type of learning, as well as project delivery model across the National Park Service. Next slide, please. So I want to take a few minutes here and show a 2-minute video of the employees of the historic preservation in their own words, how they do their work, what it means to them, and the joy they get from doing it. So I'm going to go on mute here. My colleague Laura Tomczyk will be playing this video. She's also going to drop the video in the chat for those of you who may have slower bandwidth. You can watch it at a later date or watch it in conjunction with us playing it here on the Zoom call. So I'll turn it over to you, Laura, and please enjoy.
Sounds good. I dropped that link in the chat if you're curious, and I'm just going to hit play here.
If I had a word to describe what HPTC does, I would definitely say impactful, because if you look at what HPTC does, they're going out to all these different national parks around the country. They're helping to preserve national park structures.
I think of ourselves as a design-build contractor within the Park Service. From start to finish, we come out and we work out the technical details. We work with contractors if required. We write the specifications, and we provide the day labor to do the majority of the project and execute the work.
Allowing the Park Service to get some of their most unique, difficult to scope historic structures repaired and preserved for the next generation.
We have carpentry, woodcrafting, masonry, architecture, and PM branches. There's no other center within the National Park Service that can do that. At the same time, provide the training that we provide.
And we train and develop people that will go on to be leaders and future tradesmen in the National Park Service.
I think the best part about HPTC is the way we come together to finish a project.
We work for national parks, national historic sites, national forest,
DOD, Army Corps of Engineers, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, federal, local, state governments, and nonprofits.
Call us and say, hey, we have this project, can you help us? And we do it in a way that's collaborative.
Everybody's working towards one common goal.
And I think that's really special.
It's really an elite group of the National Park Service that actually, get to go to these places and work on these structures.
You really get to continue the craftsmanship of people that have been doing this way longer than you've been alive, and continuing down that path for history, it definitely means a lot.
Part of what we do is use traditional skills. So we're not only preserving the buildings, we're also preserving the actual craft of doing the work on some of the structures, which I think is equally as important.
I'm all about saving buildings like this one that otherwise might not survive on their own.
Do what we can do to save the structures for future generations to enjoy and learn about our rich history of the United States.
It's remarkable. I mean, the history in this country.
Sorry for the lag. Let me try something.
Oh, a little lag there. We almost made it. Well, while she's trying to get the rest of the video kind of up and finishing, I will just add to this point that every time I watch this video, it inspires me. And it inspires me to the individuals, the people, and the connections they have all made to both history, those people, and the places that our country has deemed the most important. And the ability that I have personally had in my career to touch some of these places has, again, as it was said in the video, been so impactful to who I am, to how I believe this world should be. And if we aren't stewards of that history, understand from it and learn from it, we can't move forward. So Laura, are you able to bring the PowerPoint back up?
Yeah, just give me 1 second.
Again, everybody, I encourage you to take a few minutes, watch that video on your own time, and take from it what you may. So the next part of my talk here is really just to describe our footprint in the National Park Service. And so we are located in, currently in, let her get this up, in 2 locations with a strategic plan to expand to the better part of about 12 locations across the National Park Service and across the country. Can folks see her screen? I personally can't, but that's fine. No.
Not yet, maybe. Maybe it's coming up now.
Okay. I'm gonna hold just a second. Sorry.
That's fine. If not, if she can email it to me, I can share it with my computer. Maybe my bandwidth would be better.
Robert, this is Catherine Wanson. I can send it to you while Laura tries to get it back up on the screen.
Oh, well, I guess that's part of it.
Okay, I think I got it. Can you see that?
Okay, yeah. We're back on business, so. That's why we're always flexible in life, folks. We won't get bent out of shape that way. Anyway, moving on to our facilities and our headquarters. We are located in Frederick, Maryland at Monocacy Battlefield is our main headquarters there in the photo on your right. It's an 1873 mansion that was built as kind of spoils from the Civil War. And it currently serves as our administrative headquarters for HPTC. Also in Frederick, we operate a lease facility that serves as our work shop, which you'll see there in the bottom photo. It's located in downtown Frederick. There's an old bean canning factory, and we've been partnering with the city of Frederick for the better part of 20 years to support our operations. We offer many programs. We have a full-scale wood shop, and we have about 75 employees that currently report to the Frederick area from all around the region. Next slide, please. So in addition to our location in Frederick, where for 44 years was our only location, we strategically have worked with and are operating the White Grass Ranch Training Facility in Grand Teton National Park. And this is a rehabilitated dude ranch that was restored with by the National Trust for the use in preservation training. We have beds that accommodate up to 26 people, and we offer it as an outdoor classroom and a way to teach preservation in a unique park setting. Next slide, please. And as we take on some of these operations that we're about to talk about, we are expanding our footprint in places like Portland, Oregon, San Antonio, Texas, Natchez, Mississippi, Chattanooga, Tennessee, where I'm at, Pensacola, Florida, St. Croix in the Virgin Islands, San Juan in Puerto Rico, All these are strategic locations where we'll be hiring and placing employees over the next several years to meet the demands of the National Park Service and our partners for preservation trade services and training. So what do? We do technical preservation services. We have architects and preservationists who go out and provide technical services to help sites and individuals understand what's needed for their preservation work. Followed with that, they're the tip of the spear. They're identifying the issues, coming up with the root causes, designing the treatment plans. Then we have our preservation trade services team. They're the craftsmen, the tradespeople, the individuals, men and women that go out and perform the work that is designed by our technical preservation services folks. They spend up to 40 weeks a year traveling across the country, doing projects of all different types, masonry, carpentry. It runs the gamut. We do over 60 projects a year that are all across the country. And then we have our preservation training services, and those are really aligned with our workforce development mission and meeting the goals of the Secretary of Interior standards to develop the next generation of stewards for the National Park Service. Next slide, please. So within technical preservation services, we do things like historic structures report. That's the baseline documentation for any historic structure that's needed in order to understand it, learn from it, and know what is the management principle that you're going to use to care for that structure. So anything that has federal funding going into it, or state funding, typically, if it's a historic structure, would have one of these and be able to understand that. We do project oversight, design. We also do construction management, in that many of the work that happens in the National Park Service is done by private and outside contractors. We have to have people to oversee that work, that understand the nuances of historic preservation, as well as the National Park Service. So those are all within our technical side. As I said, it's the tip of the spear. Next slide, please. And then we have, like I said, the trade side. What we do in this work is anything from interior finishes, painting, plaster, the millwork, all the architectural trim work, windows and doors. Windows is probably one of our largest features that we work on. Historic windows, they get a bad rap. Anybody that's talking about energy efficiency says, rip those old windows out. However, through our research, we've proven that historic window properly glazed and maintained over time is far more efficient than modern windows. So again, I think the historic building systems, understanding them, understanding how they go together, really, and the trades and crafts that work together to make our historic structures, we're far more in tune with our environment than we may be today in some cases for our building systems. So these services, they go out, they perform this work, they take in sustainability, they take in energy efficiency, we blend new with old. Not everything in the Park Service is old. So we have to be able to understand where the trades are going and where they've come from to be able to perform this work. Next slide, please. So again, the preservation learning services. This is, I think, one of my favorite parts of my job is the education, the training, the development of others. I had the great opportunity to have a wonderful mentor in my life that showed me a lot of things. And as I take on this role to be a mentor, to be a steward of individuals, human resources is as much a goal of mine as it is to the physical resources of the National Park Service. So within this team I've created, we have continuing education opportunities. We create support tools so people can do their jobs well. And then also we have career development opportunities so people can find out if historic preservation is for them, or what part of historic preservation is for them, what they want to do, and get experiences in life that will show that. Next slide, please. So some of our task support tools, we have a thing called the Common Learning Portal. This is a portal that is open to the public through invitation. And within it, it has Knowledge Park, which is all kinds of information on historic preservation, on trades. Within that, we hold our own little YouTube channel of Trades Alive, recognizing that people learn through YouTube these days to do all kinds of different things. And we feel that to be on the cusp of things, to present the information as the Secretary of Interior has intended for true historic preservation applications is really a key way to get information out to the public that are trying to execute historic preservation on their private homes, in other sectors outside the National Park Service. Next slide, please. So within our continuing education opportunities, one of the main series of workshops we run is our BEST workshop series, and that's brick, earth, stone, and timber. We love our acronyms in the National Park Service. And with that, we run, these are open to the public, to students. They are hosted at our Whitegrass training facility as well as national parks all over the country. We are about ready to advertise our annual catalog. And again, these are open to both National Park Service as well as the public. Really, it's an integrated field-based design to bring both the tradesperson and the designers together. We also operate a training wheels program where we provide park teams with some support in getting their projects up to snuff, teaching them some of the techniques that they might need to accomplish those projects. And then we have two kind of outside fellowships and scholarships that we run, one being the Harrison Goodall Preservation Fellowship. He was an individual who spent his career working in the national parks for the National Park Service, but as a contractor. He developed preservation epoxies and was very at forefront. He has donated a large sum of money to our philanthropic partner to create a fellowship to advance preservation knowledge, experience, technology in a way that provides a $5,000 fellowship to individuals who want to explore some of these ideas and help advance the world of historic preservation. And then our Chris Robinson Scholarship, he was a former superintendent of ours, and it is really focused on tradespeople who are interested in learning more from other tradespeople through experiential opportunities. So we offer money to pay for travel for them to go and work on other projects. It was originally and was an international program for people to seek international exchange opportunities in this environment. With COVID, certainly we've had to scale that back and are looking to reestablish that framework here as we start to open up a little more. So next slide, please. So again, our career development opportunities. These are really ones that are out there to engage the next generation of the workforce. Those individuals who are looking for a career in either the federal government or the National Park Service or in historic preservation. And we have pretty much 6 really strong programs that we run. First is our PASS program, and that is an internal program to the National Park Service employees. That's preservation and skills training. It is for lower level maintenance employees to spend a year and a half or so learning new skills, coming together as a cohort and building skill sets around their parks maintenance needs. That's been a 23-year-long program that we've operated, and we've created some real leaders of the National Park Service over that year. Skill Bridge, that is a program that we operate in partnership with the Department of Defense, engaging active duty military and National Guardists into federal service through an exchange program in active duty military. We have our TTAP, or Traditional Trades Advancement Program, and this is really, I think, touches to the constituencies of individuals at Shepherd or other colleges. It's a 26-week internship program by which you earn a stipend and an hourly wage. You're placed in a national park at some 60 locations this year across the country. You engage directly with the maintenance teams, and you receive what's called Public Land Corps Authority, which is a non-competitive hiring authority that allows you to find and seek jobs within the National Park Service or other land management agencies, such as the Forest Service or BLM or Fish and Wildlife Service. So the Historic Stewards Program is a direct hire program that is targeted towards trade schools and trades universities. There's several of them out there. You come in for a 12-week summer internship in between your first and second year. You follow up with a 26-week experience after you graduate, with the opportunity for direct placement in the National Park Service. On that same line, we also offer a technical internship program, which is designed to engage architects, engineers, city planners, individuals at schools and in programs wanting to get experience in this work in the National Park Service through stewardship. And then our final program is kind of an experience program that we partner with historically Black colleges and universities across the country to promote preservation and practice. We utilize our Whitegrass training facility, as well as a trip to Washington, D.C. to provide experiences to architecture students at historically Black colleges and universities. So quite a list of programs. Certainly, we have our NPS.gov website where you can find a lot of this information. So now that I've spent some, next slide, please. Thank you. You were right there, Laura, ahead of me. So now, as we look to, as I've told you a lot about who we are, I'd like to move into my talk to, as I was preparing for this, thinking about sociology, criminal justice, and that environment. As a leader in the NPS, I've been with the National Park Service for 20 years. I have come to learn that the National Park Service is a decentralized organization. So we have 421 units that are their own kind of individual units. We have 7 regions that support those 421, and then a Washington headquarters office that supports those regions and all those parks. And in the end, an organization of like 20,000 people, and as these individuals work through this system and grow and take on positions, in 40 years, none of us will be working here. But if we create social and personal connections through training programs with 2 people, the same great mission. So what is an emergent system? It is one that grows naturally and not one that is channeled through bureaucratic or organizational structure. And in looking at the National Park Service, it is through those personal connections of an emergent system that has created the connections that have allowed such a decentralized system to maintain such a wonderful mission over time. And so just on a demographic standpoint, you look at how you change over your organization. And as I was saying, you look at one individual, and if they train or take on 2, how compounding that can be in a system, regardless of where they go in that system. So next slide, please. So again, a bureaucracy. I live it. I dig in those weeds daily. It has its place, but it's from a desk where I'm sitting. It's handed down. It's one way. It doesn't always work. There's limited information available to the people in the field. So few people control that information that it's hard to find it. So this is hierarchical, we chain of command type stuff, and it is really, it has its place in society. It has its, and organizations tend to stress. However, changes in technology, the way we have moved has kind of things like Facebook, like this has changed how information comes and how our emergent bureaucracy functions. And I think, as in my 20 years in the National Park Service, the connections, those personal connections you make with people, transcend all this bureaucracy, all this hierarchy, in allowing you those connections to get the work done of the mission of the National Park Service. So next slide, please. So an emergent system, what is this? And this is really where we've tried to take our training programs. Holistically, recognizing that we're creating communities of practice. So we organize around those information flows. What's going on? We really are looking to give people the tools and then the power to make the choices and do the work. With that, that creates a need for open feedback loops and the realization that we always like to say failure is not an option. Well, in an emergent system, failure is needed. It is required. It is part of the process of moving things forward. But if you don't do it in an open feedback loop, you tend to find yourself back in that bureaucratic system where you're generally stuck with that. So really, these training programs, the work we do in the National Park Service has been able to create these connections that an individual at one park knows an individual at another park. They're able to find the way to get the work done through those connections, not through the bureaucratic top-down or asking question chain of command. And things like Zoom, Teams, all these technologies have really created that. Now, the bureaucracy of life and the world, it's always there, and it continues to put pressures on how we operate. As we look at our training programs, creating these communities of practice and engagement, we will really get to a better place for the mission of the National Park Service by empowering people, which also creates a more open community for diversity, equity across the board in a place that hasn't always been the most open to all individuals. So next slide, please. So again, this community of practice that we create through our training programs in preservation transcend the world of preservation. They create this community of engagement out there that is focused on stewardship, sustainability, and again, the interest we create around it will forever keep us moving towards that mission of the National Park Service. So certainly it's been a fun journey, and I've come to really believe in the world of these emergent systems and how they create the connections, the personal connections needed to achieve the work. I think that it's, I've been blessed for working for the National Park Service for one single organization in that 420 some odd parks, but I feel connected to all 421 through those connections that I have made with people across this service of 20,000 plus employees, that I understand what they're going through. I understand their needs and how these training programs are out there to support the workforce in preserving the stewardship of our nation's history. So with that, my final slide, and I'll open the floor to any questions that may be out there.
And certainly if you have a question, just go ahead. You can either, if you want to type in the chat, you certainly can, or you can unmute your mic. I'll try and read. Amy does have a question, and I have questions too. But anyone else have any questions right now? they would like to ask. All right, we'll go ahead and start with Amy's question. Maybe that'll prompt more questions, and I, of course, have questions as well. She says, are there any opportunities for internships or service learning, and how can we get involved? In other words, what can we do to offer Shepherd students opportunities? Because obviously we have a history department, right? We have our anthropology, and we have sociology students, and students in general might be interested in working on a historical site. So how would they go about doing that?
So I think the first piece is we're having this conversation. So there's a connection. We are creating a connection between Shepherd University and the National Park Service Historic Preservation Training. So we list all of our internships on our nps.gov/HPTC website. I'd ask Laura to put that in the chat so people have it. We then also, we have a Facebook page where we post all of our opportunities through all of our programs. So certainly between the social media side of it. But then certainly this is also about workforce engagement. And I'd be very open as an alumni to meeting with your internship program so that we can create a connection about the opportunities that not only the Historic Preservation Training Center has, but really the National Park Service has a multitude of opportunities for all different types of disciplines. We have over 400 different career series in the National Park Service, more than any other federal agency out there. Anything from the guy who runs and fixes the trolley on the Gateway Arch to somebody to sociologists that understand how our visitors behave in the National Park Service, to law enforcement rangers, to interpretive rangers. I mean, 400 different careers in the National Park Service. So
that's a lot. Yeah, I was thinking that it'd be interesting to have a Shepherd class that linked itself to the historic parks, like a local site where you take the class, learn about the history or something of the area.
Yep.
You actually get to go work on the history of that area. That would be really interesting. Okay, so we do have another question. It says, what are you looking for in application? What really stands out to you on a resume? So what can a student or a person interested in a career do to make themselves a top candidate?
Again, back to the personal connection. I am a firm believer of cover letters, in that recognizing that individuals passing through resumes sometimes overlook that personal connection that a resume can bring. We are looking for interest, number one, like people who want to do this, be interested, show your interest, tell your interest. Second, dedication, show that you can sustain something, that you want to try something, whether it be through volunteer experience or just that you show a good track record of things. So that's it. And then I think finally is just recognize that you have people in your circle that can vouch for you. And I really am a firm believer in references and what references can bring to you. So they are some of your best advocates down the road. And I'm a firm believer in always reaching out to references to understand people.
Awesome. Do you have any other questions from people? So if not, I'll have some questions again. So one of the things I was wondering, and I was interested in, as I'm looking through all the different pictures of all the sites, I'm seeing people actually restoring, right? Physically restoring a lot of these creations. Do you guys ever bring in consultants, archaeologists or forensics experts, to maybe if you come across something that you find, right, that maybe you want to understand better to emphasize the history of that place, or you want to preserve, would you bring in those types of experts? Because we have a forensics department, and I just think it's kind of a real interesting connection here that maybe people are overlooking an opportunity.
Oh, absolutely. So by the work we do, we tend to deconstruct and work on and reconstruct historic structures. So within that, we find all kinds of stuff. So for instance, one of my experiences that I found, I was working in Glen Canyon in Arizona, where the Glen Canyon Dam, and I was at, we were working there. They were cleaning up. We found an old piece of lead, and it had all this writing on it, and it was signed by John Smith, who, if you didn't know history about the Mormons and their transformation across the country, and there was a Mormon massacre where they blamed Native Americans, and it turned into this crazy thing. Well, when we dusted this off and found this thing, it basically was an admittance by the Mormons that they constructed this whole thing. And so we're like, wait a minute, we got to get this to experts. We took it into the experts. Long story short, it was a forgery, but we had to get forensic scientists to look at the lead and realize that the lead came from a mine that wasn't started until the 1940s. So like, it was really to deconstruct what happened and demyth something that could have altered the course of history as we know it. So that was certainly one example. I had another one where we were working at Congressional Cemetery in Washington, D.C. on General Alexander McComb's gravesite and his statue. And it had some foundational issues. It was starting to collapse, and we had to do an emergency takedown. And in the process, we discovered a brick vault. Well, we're down in the ground. We brought in archaeologists to excavate the area. We then had to bring in, I can't even remember what they were, but they were from the Smithsonian's forensics department to actually exhume the bodies of him and his wife. They took them to the Smithsonian, did all their analytics on it. They found his gold dentures, and then we reinterred him again later after we kind of restored the vault and everything else involved. So that's just a couple examples, but we find ourselves in all kinds of different fun and unique situations like that.
That's really interesting. I was wondering about that. All right, any other questions from the audience, participants?
For any of you Shepherd folks out there, I lived in Kennemond Hall as my dormitory. I don't even know if it's still there.
All right, well, if there's no more questions, I will let you go, Superintendent. I appreciate your time. I'd like to have you back again, and maybe, obviously I'll see you, so we can talk about maybe getting some opportunities for students with the HPTC.
Absolutely, and I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you and all the Shepherd students and everybody who joined in today. So thank you very much for the invitation.
Yes, thanks everybody for coming. All right, see you later.
Bye.